The sun sagged lower, a molten disk spilling its glow across the endless sweep of the valley. The land stretched wide and dry, where silence seemed carved into the dirt itself, broken only by the restless stamp of horses in the corral and the mournful whistle of wind through the cedar posts. In the barn, the air hung heavy with dust and hay, and the lantern's flame sputtered faintly against the gathering dusk, painting long shadows that crept and wavered across the rough boards. Elias Carter stood there, tall and broad, shoulders squared as though he carried the whole weight of the valley on his back. His hands were calloused, the veins roping across them like scars of a life spent wrangling cattle, fixing fences, and surviving the West's cruel indifference. His jaw was tight, his lips pressed to a thin line. He'd stared down wolves, outlaws, and even death itself once or twice, but nothing had rattled him like the sight in front of him now. Tied against the central beam of the barn was a woman. Her clothes were worn, stained from the road, and her wrists were lashed cruelly with rawhide, pulled tight enough to bite into flesh. Her hair spilled loose, a dark curtain falling across her dirt-streaked cheeks. The lantern light caught the sheen of sweat on her brow and the shimmer of tears she fought to hold back. She raised her head when she heard him step closer, and in her eyes burned something that wasn't fear alone, it was desperation, the kind that clawed its way out when hope had nearly died. "Please," she whispered, her voice raw from thirst and pleading. "Please, I am begging you, untie it." The words clung to the barn's silence. Elias froze, as though her plea had pinned him as surely as the rope bound her. He wanted to look away, to shut his ears to the sound of her breaking voice, but he couldn't. It echoed too deep, rattling something old and long buried inside him. The sheriff's orders rang in his head. Sheriff McKinley had brought her in that afternoon, grim-faced, and ordered her tied there until morning. Said she was dangerous, a spy caught near the railroad camps where men had been shot dead. McKinley had told Elias not to interfere, not to even speak to her. Tradition in Dry Creek was clear. A rancher respected the sheriff, respected the law, no matter how bitter it tasted. But now, with her eyes on him, all of that felt as fragile as smoke. "I can't," Elias muttered, his voice low and steady, though his throat ached with the lie of it. "The sheriff will be back for you at sunrise. If I lay a hand to that rope, it'll be my neck they stretch next." Her lips trembled, and she leaned forward against her bonds, the rope digging deeper into her wrists. "Then let him hang me at daylight, before the eyes of the town. Let them see it, but don't leave me like this, bound and broken in the dark. I am not the criminal he says I am. I swear it on every breath I have left." Elias's chest tightened. Her words pulled at memories he had long buried, his sister years ago, standing accused of theft she had not committed. He remembered her crying out to neighbors for mercy, and how no one had listened. The shame of it had driven her into an early grave. He had vowed then to follow the rules, to never invite ruin upon himself, but that vow sat bitter now. He shifted, hand brushing the knife at his belt. The weight of it seemed to burn against his hip, urging him, taunting him. "If I untie you," he said slowly, voice thick, "you'll run. And if you run, they'll call me the man who freed a killer. That'll be my name in every saloon from here to Santa Fe." She held his gaze, her eyes wet but unflinching. "Or you'll be remembered as the man who saved a life when no one else would. Which truth can you live with, rancher? Which will you carry to your grave?" The barn seemed to close in around him. The lantern hissed, shadows leaned closer, and the silence pressed hard against his ears. His heart pounded, steady as a drum, but his breath came ragged. He could see her wrists trembling, the skin rubbed raw. He could see the weight of her hope resting squarely on him, as if the whole world had narrowed to this single choice. His hand lifted, rough fingers brushing the rope. The coarse fibers rasped against his skin, reminding him of fence lines and lassos, of order and tradition. But this rope was not holding a beast of the land, it was choking the dignity out of a human being. He swallowed hard, his throat dry as dust. The woman's voice came again, soft but cutting deeper than a shout ever could. "Please, untie it." Elias Carter stood frozen, caught between the law that had ruled his life and the pull of something older, truer. His breath shuddered in his chest. And then, with a single, trembling decision that would change the course of his life, he reached for the knife at his belt. The rope gave way beneath the knife, the strands snapping with a dull twang that echoed louder than a gunshot in the stillness of the barn. The woman stumbled forward as though her strength had drained out the moment her bonds fell away. Elias caught her instinctively, his arms steady around her trembling frame. Her breath came in ragged bursts against his chest, the sound of someone who had nearly drowned and had just broken the surface. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The lantern light flickered, throwing restless shadows across their faces, and outside, the faint thunder of hooves carried on the wind. "You're free now," Elias said, the words heavy, almost foreign. They didn't taste like triumph, they tasted like danger. He eased her upright, watching as she rubbed her raw wrists, the angry red marks glaring back at him like accusations. She looked at him with eyes that glimmered, half gratitude and half a warning. "You don't know what you've done." "Then tell me," Elias replied, his voice sharp but low. He had already broken tradition, already betrayed the code he had lived by. He needed to know if he had damned himself for nothing. "My name is Clara Weston," she said after a long breath. The name struck him faintly familiar, but he couldn't place it. "My brother was killed near the railroad camp 2 months ago." He had evidence, names, ledgers, payments to hired guns. The company wanted the land cleared, wanted silence bought with blood. He wouldn't sell. They shot him down like a dog. Her voice cracked, but her eyes stayed fierce. "I went there to finish what he started. To bring proof to Dodge City. But they caught me before I could escape. The sheriff," she paused, the bitterness sharp in her tone. "The sheriff is theirs. He takes their coin. He wants me gone before word can spread." Elias's jaw worked as her words settled over him. The sheriff, McKinley, had been a fixture in Dry Creek for years, a man who spoke of law while wearing it like a cloak over something darker. Elias had always ignored the whispers, always told himself order was better than chaos. But now, hearing Clara, he could see the cracks in the mask. "They'll come for you," he said quietly, as though speaking it too loud would summon them faster. "And when they don't find you, they'll come for me." Clara met his gaze squarely. "Then let me go. Don't tie yourself to this. You've already done more than anyone else would." He almost laughed at the irony. His whole life, Elias Carter had lived by the rules, and yet in a single moment, he had tossed them aside. "If I let you ride out into the night alone, they'll track you down before the moon sets. You need a plan, and you need a chance." The sound of horses carried clearer now, drifting over the hills. Elias walked to the barn doors, cracked them open a sliver, and peered out. Dust rose in the distance, a faint glowing line against the starlit horizon. Riders, lanterns bobbing like restless fireflies. They were closer than he liked. "There's a back trail behind the ridge," Elias said, turning back to her. "It'll take you to the river bend. Follow it north until you hit the old mine road. No one's used it in years, and it'll buy you time." She hesitated, her hand hovering near the revolver at his side as if she wanted to take the weapon but couldn't bring herself to ask. Elias saw the hesitation, pulled his spare pistol from his holster, and pressed it into her palm. "You'll need this more than I will." Her fingers closed around the cold steel, her grip uncertain but firming with resolve. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice softer now, carrying something other than desperation. Elias's eyes darkened, memory stirring again of his sister begging for mercy and finding none. "Because I've seen what happens when no one listens. I won't let it happen twice." The hooves were nearer now, the ground itself trembling with their approach. Clara glanced toward the open sliver of night, then back at him. She stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm, a fleeting touch, yet full of weight. "You've given me more than freedom. You've given me a chance to fight. I won't forget it." He nodded once, grim and steady. "Go. Don't stop until you reach the river." Clara slipped through the barn's side door, vanishing into the shadows like smoke carried by the wind. Elias stood still for a moment, the emptiness she left behind filling the barn like a ghost. Then he turned back, closing the doors and reaching for his rifle propped against the wall. The riders were nearly upon him now, their lanterns spilled golden light across the ridge as they descended toward his land. Elias took his place in the center of the barn, rifle in hand, every muscle taut with resolve. He could already hear McKinley's voice in the distance, barking orders. He had broken tradition, he had cut the rope, and with that choice, Elias Carter knew he had crossed a line from which there was no return. Yet as the hooves thundered closer and the night thickened with danger, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, not fear, not dread, but a strange, steady calm. For the first time, he was standing for something greater than himself.